At Christmas, my dad said, "He was never really our son. He's more like a tenant who never paid rent." My sister whispered to my mom, "Why did you invite him? He stinks of poverty." I just stood up, said I was done, and left, but the real karma hit them a week later. Hey, Reddit. After 3 years of silence, my family invited me home for Christmas just to humiliate me. Here's what went down. Buckle up. I, 31 male, have spent my entire life being the family afterthought. My sister Laura, 34 female, has always been the golden child, the one who made something of herself according to my parents. I fix HVAC systems for a living. Yup, not glamorous, but honest work that pays the bills. Laura? She's in digital marketing, which basically means she posts garbage on Instagram and somehow convinces companies to pay her for it. Growing up, it was always, Laura got straight A's, while my B-plus report card got a shrug. Laura made the debate team, while my spot on the track team meant nothing. I ran my ass off every day, set a school record in the 400-meter relay, and my dad didn't even show up to the meet. When I needed money for community college, Dad said to get a job. When Laura wanted to study abroad in Europe, they remortgaged the freaking house. Mom, 59 female, is a former real estate agent who now spends her days in Facebook groups spreading conspiracy theories and telling everyone how successful her daughter is. Dad, 62 male, is an accountant who thinks his job at the same boring firm for 30 years makes him Warren Buffett. He's the type who brags about filing taxes the old-fashioned way, like it's some kind of achievement. I remember when I was 16, I rebuilt the engine on my buddy's truck. Took us 3 weekends, tons of YouTube tutorials, and a lot of scraped knuckles. When we finally got it running, I was so pumped I called my dad to show him. He looked at it for maybe 5 seconds, pointed at a perfectly normal oil spot underneath, and said, "Looks like you screwed up the gasket." Then walked back inside to watch Laura's debate competition on the family camcorder for the 5th time. Haven't been to their place in almost 3 years. Didn't call, didn't visit, didn't do the Christmas card thing. Mom would sometimes text me with these weird emojis she clearly didn't know how to use. I'd reply with something short, because what the hell else was there to say? So when Mom called asking me to come home for Christmas, saying everyone would be there and that Dad had mellowed, I should have known better. But for some dumb reason, I said yes. Maybe I thought things had changed. Maybe I'm just a freaking idiot. The 8-hour drive was brutal. My truck's heater kept cutting out every 20 minutes, so I had to keep fiddling with the wiring harness at rest stops while my fingers went numb. Barely stopped, just wanted to get it over with. When I pulled up, the house looked exactly the same. That pretentious brick colonial with the perfect lawn even in December. Dad opened the door, looked at me like I was a delivery guy. "You're late," he said, and just stepped aside. No hug, no smile, nothing. Just checked his watch like I was late for an appointment. Mom came out wiping her hands on a towel, acting like I'd been gone for 3 days instead of 3 years. She gave me this awkward side hug, immediately followed by, "Did you bring a nicer shirt? We're taking family photos tomorrow." Laura was glued to her phone on the couch and just looked up to say, "OMG, didn't think you'd actually show up. Nice haircut, very budget. Real warm welcome, right?" Christmas Eve was all noise and fake smiles. Mom barking orders at nobody, Laura on some Zoom call with her influencer network, loudly bragging about her BMW and some concert tickets she scored. I offered to help with dinner and got told to just don't touch anything in the kitchen. Should have left right then, but instead I went to the garage and fixed their garage door opener that had been making this awful grinding noise. No one noticed. Dinner looked like something from a magazine. I noticed Mom had carefully placed me at the far end of the table, as far from the important guests as possible. Dad's brother Uncle Mike, 58 male, was there with his wife Debbie. Mike's cool, only one in the family who ever treated me normal. He's a plumber, gets his hands dirty like me. We used to go fishing when I was a kid. He'd teach me how to bait a hook while Dad was busy helping Laura with her science fair project. My buddy Zach was also there. Mom's idea. He's my best friend since high school who made something of himself, her words, by becoming an IT manager. Pretty sure she invited him to show me what a real success looks like. Joke's on her. Zach can't stand my family either, and only came as moral support. He showed up with a 6-pack of energy drinks and his gaming headset still around his neck, clearly coming straight from a marathon session. Mom's face when she saw him was priceless. For a while, everyone pretended to be a happy family. Mom and Laura did most of the talking while I sat quietly, cutting my food into perfect little squares just to have something to focus on. Every time I tried to say something, Laura would roll her eyes or Mom would suddenly need to check something in the kitchen. I mentioned fixing the garage door opener, and Dad just grunted, then asked Zach about his career trajectory. So, Jacob, still fixing air conditioners? My dad asked with that smug look, cutting me off mid sentence as I was telling Uncle Mike about a commercial job I'd landed. HVAC systems, Dad. Commercial and residential. Just finished a complete system overhaul for the new sports complex downtown, I replied. Right, right. Remind me what that pays again? He didn't even look up from his plate. Uncle Mike tried to change the subject. Jacob's got skills most guys would kill for. You should see what he did with my basement unit. The contractor quoted me $5,000. Jacob did it for parts cost in a weekend. But Laura couldn't help herself. OMG, Dad, don't embarrass him. Not everyone can be successful. Some people peak in high school. She looked at me with this fake sympathy smile while adjusting her designer watch. Then, while I was cutting into the ham, Dad put down his fork and said the thing that would break everything. To be honest, he was never really our son. More like a tenant who never paid rent. The room went silent. Zach's eyes went wide. My hand froze on my plate, knife halfway through the ham. Then Laura leaned over to Mom and whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Why did you invite him anyway? He reeks of failure and Walmart cologne." They both giggled like it was some inside joke they'd been dying to share. Uncle Mike stood up, knocking over his water glass. But I beat him to it. I didn't yell or ask why. I just stood up, looked at all of them and said, "I'm done with this shit," then walked out. Knocked the fancy centerpiece over on my way. Not on purpose, but I didn't stop to pick it up either. Zach followed me, grabbing his jacket and throwing a middle finger over his shoulder. Nobody else tried to stop me. Nobody called after me. I got in my truck and drove away, not looking back once. The drive back was quiet. Not sad, just final. Like something had ended for good. The truck's heater worked perfectly the whole way back, which felt like the universe's way of saying, "Good choice, dude." Zach texted saying the rest of dinner was awkward as hell, and he left early too. Got home late that night, kicked off my boots, and collapsed on the couch with the TV muted. Didn't tell anyone else what happened. Just went back to work the next morning like nothing happened, crawling under a restaurant to fix a frozen drainage line at 7 a.m. on December 26th. A week went by. I was fixing a commercial freezer system at a restaurant, wiring up thermostats, doing my usual thing. The kitchen staff kept bringing me plates of food while I worked. Real food made by people who respected what I did. Sometimes I'd think about what my dad said or how Laura laughed, but honestly, it stopped hurting after a few days. I'd been numb to their BS for years. This just made it official. Zach came over that weekend and we played COD while drinking energy drinks. He kept saying I should cut them off completely, and I was like, dude, pretty sure they already cut me off. We spent the rest of the night building a custom gaming rig from parts I'd been collecting. Turned an old mini fridge into a cooled PC case. Actually worked pretty damn well. Then, one Tuesday after lunch, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Let it go to voicemail. A minute later, another call. I was up on a ladder installing ductwork, so I almost didn't answer. This time I did. It was my mom, and her voice was all tight and shaky in a way I'd never heard before. "We need help," she said. Turns out my dad had been fired 2 days after Christmas. Not laid off, fired. Something about accounting irregularities, though she was vague on details. Translation: the old man had been cooking the books and finally got caught. Had his company badge and phone confiscated, was escorted out by security. The perfect accountant with his perfect record walked out past all his colleagues like a criminal. And Laura had just found out her boyfriend Derek had been lying about their finances for months. Turns out Mr. I'm a hedge fund manager was actually drowning in debt. Her BMW was leased with payments 3 months behind, and her condo was about to be foreclosed on. All those Instagram posts about their glamorous life? Complete BS. Apparently, Derek had been opening credit cards in both their names, maxing them out on designer clothes and fancy restaurants, then doing balance transfers to new cards. The whole house of cards was collapsing. And now they were calling me, the HVAC guy who peaked in high school. I just listened while my mom actually started crying, which never happened, not even when I was a kid. She said they didn't know who else to turn to, said I was the only one they could rely on. The irony was so thick, I could have cut it with a knife. You'd think that would feel good to hear after years of being treated like garbage. It didn't. It felt fake as hell, like someone asking to borrow your truck after keying it multiple times. I stayed silent so long that Mom asked if I was still there. Finally told her I'd think about it and hung up. Finished the ductwork installation, double-checked all the connections, then sat in my truck for 20 minutes. That night, I sat at my kitchen table looking at my savings. I wasn't rich or anything, but I'd been careful. No kids, no crazy expenses, and my HVAC business was doing better than they knew. I'd just landed a contract with a new apartment complex, regular maintenance on 200 units, guaranteed work for 2 years. I had enough to help if I wanted to. Called Zach to ask what he thought. He was in the middle of some work crisis, typing furiously on his keyboard while we talked. His advice: if you do this, make it a loan with terms. Get it in writing. These people are toxic, but you're not, and that's your superpower. And for some weird reason, I did want to help. Not for them, but to prove something to myself, that I wasn't what they said I was, that I was better than how they treated me, that I could be someone who helps my family even when they don't deserve it. Plus, Zach's idea about making it a loan was actually pretty smart. So I drew up a simple loan agreement. Nothing fancy, just stating the money was a loan with reasonable interest that needed to be paid back in monthly installments starting in 60 days. Spent hours researching online to make sure it was legally binding. I sent Laura enough to keep her condo from being repossessed. $15,000 that I transferred directly to her mortgage company, not to her. Helped my dad cover his legal fees. $25,000. I sent it all but kept copies of everything. Transfer receipts, signed loan agreements, recorded conversations. What they didn't know was that I recorded our phone calls where they asked for money. Totally legal in my state. One-party consent. I also had them sign my loan agreement electronically, with timestamps and IP addresses logged. They clearly didn't read it carefully, just clicked through while promising verbally they'd pay me back the second things got better. My mom called to thank me, all teary and shit. Laura wrote a short text that seemed physically painful for her to send. The ex will pay you back when things stabilize. But it worked. Their immediate problems were fixed. Dad avoided criminal charges by paying back what he'd taken. Laura kept her condo. Mom stopped calling me in tears every night. And just like that, they disappeared again. No updates, no follow-ups, nothing. After a few weeks, it was like I'd never existed, until I found out what they were doing with my money. I wasn't expecting a parade of thanks, but the silence was still there in the back of my mind, like having a pebble in your work boot all day. I'd help them because I thought maybe they'd wake up a little, see me differently, at least pretend I was part of the family. Then my buddy Carson, who works at this high-end AV company, sent me a text. "Dude, isn't this your sister?" with a screenshot attached. It was an Instagram story. Laura posing with her boyfriend at some VIP concert. The caption: back on track. Self-care is important. Live your best life. My chest got tight as I went through her stories. 500 front row tickets to some pop stars show, backstage passes, champagne meet and greet, hashtags like #blessed and #manifesting. All posted just 3 weeks after I transferred thousands to save her condo. Next day, I saw something even better. A Facebook album from my mom called Renewing Our Commitment. It was photos of her intimate vow renewal ceremony with my dad at a freaking mountain resort. Matching outfits, hired photographer, the works. A 40-person intimate dinner at some restaurant where the cheapest entree was $75. All this happened while my dad was supposedly destitute and fighting legal battles. They used my loan money for concert tickets, a vow renewal, spa treatments, and Instagram clout, after calling me in tears saying they were on the brink of financial ruin. And not once did they think maybe they should mention this to the guy who floated them 40 grand. I was under a client's house when I saw these posts, fixing a vent that some animal had nested in. Nearly smacked my head on a floor joist, I was so angry. Crawled out covered in dust and insulation fibers, checked my phone again to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Nope. There was Laura, tagged in a photo at the resort spa. Treating ourselves after a stressful time. Self-care, on family. Not tagged. The family member whose money paid for it. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat at my kitchen table with a notepad, trying to process it all. Started making a list of every time they'd treated me like garbage. Dad comparing my HVAC salary to Laura's marketing career at every family gathering. Mom forgetting to invite me to family events. Laura borrowing my truck to move, then returning it with an empty tank and a dented fender that she never offered to fix. The next morning, I checked my bank account to confirm what I already knew. Not a single loan payment had been made yet. The first one was due in a week, but given what I'd seen, I had zero faith they'd remember. I went to work feeling like there was a rock in my gut. Spent the day in an attic installing a system for a young couple who just had twins. The husband kept bringing me water and asking questions about maintenance, actually listening when I explained how to change the filters. While I was driving home, my phone buzzed with a notification. A text from Laura. "Hey, about that loan. Can we push back the first payment? Bit tight right now. Thanks. No explanation, no acknowledgement of the concert or the spa day. Just asking for more time while posting about her shopping sprees. I didn't respond immediately. When I got home, I found out they'd already pushed a line. My credit monitoring service sent an alert. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name at a high-end department store. Application was declined due to the fraud alert I'd set up, but the attempt came from an IP address in Laura's neighborhood. That was it. That was the final straw. They hadn't just ignored my loan terms, they were actively trying to steal from me again while spending my money on luxury crap. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. What started as a vent session evolved into something else over the next few days. Not a plan for revenge exactly, more like a decision to stop protecting them from reality, to let them face the natural consequences of their actions for once in their entitled lives. First, I contacted my bank and pulled up all the transfer receipts and the loan agreements they'd signed. Made sure everything was in order. These weren't gifts. They were loans with clear terms they'd agreed to. Got everything notarized just to be safe. The bank manager recognized me. I'd fixed his home AC unit during that brutal heat wave last summer when his pregnant wife was suffering. He was happy to help fast-track everything. Next, I started doing some basic financial monitoring. Set up credit alerts for myself after remembering how Laura had helped me with paperwork years ago. She'd kept copies of my ID and financial info back then. Always said it was for tax purposes, but never explained further. Better safe than sorry. Spent $100 on a comprehensive credit monitoring service. I also started documenting their social media posts. Screenshots of Laura's concert pictures, mom's vow renewal ceremony, dad's golf outings. Just evidence of how they were spending money while ignoring my loan repayment notices. Dad had the balls to post about his new golf clubs the exact day the first payment was due. Called Uncle Mike to get his perspective. He wasn't surprised at all. Your dad's been living beyond his means for 20 years, he told me while we were fishing at his favorite spot. Always trying to one-up everyone with the newest car, biggest house. Your mom's no better. Remember that kitchen remodel they did right after you graduated? They put it on 3 different credit cards. He agreed to be a witness if I ever needed to take legal action about the loans. Zach thought I should just write off the money and cut contact. Those people are toxic, man. Just let it go. But this wasn't about the money anymore. This was about respect. Over the next few weeks, I sent polite but formal payment reminders. All ignored. Called twice, left voicemails explaining that the grace period was ending. No response. Sent certified letters outlining the consequences of defaulting on our loan agreements. The letters were received, signed for, but never acknowledged. Meanwhile, I was living on ramen and working 70-hour weeks to rebuild my savings. Meanwhile, Laura kept posting on Instagram like nothing was wrong. Pictures of her and Derek at restaurants, shopping trips, that concert series with the $500 tickets. My mom's Facebook was full of her book club meetings and charity luncheons. Dad joined a new country club, posting about his networking opportunities, with guys who had no idea he'd just been fired for financial impropriety. It was like watching people dance on the deck of the Titanic, completely oblivious to the iceberg they'd already hit. Each post was more tone-deaf than the last. Each ignored payment notice was another nail in the coffin of any relationship we might have salvaged. After 2 months of ignored payment notices, I finally took the next step. Filed formal breach of contract paperwork with the county clerk. Nothing dramatic, just the standard legal process when someone defaults on a documented loan. Didn't even hire a lawyer. Just paid the $75 filing fee and submitted the paperwork myself. The clerk recognized me too. I'd upgraded her office's ventilation system last year when everyone was getting headaches from poor air quality. It took 3 weeks for them to get served. According to the process server's notes, Laura slammed the door in his face after taking the papers. My parents weren't home when he tried their place, so he left the documents with their neighbor, the same neighbor who'd always complained about my eyesore of a first truck when I was in high school. 2 days later, Laura posted some cryptic quote about fake family on Instagram with a black and white filter for maximum drama. My mom called that night, but I let it go to voicemail. Her message was all over the place. First apologetic, then defensive, then angry. Said they were disappointed I'd gone this route instead of talking to them like family. Funny how they only remembered we were family when they needed something. I didn't respond, just waited, kept working, landed another big contract with a local hotel chain, hired 2 part-time helpers to keep up with the workload. Started teaching one of them, Marcus, everything I knew about HVAC systems. Kid was a natural. Picked up diagnostics faster than I did when I was starting out. Marcus was in community college, working to pay his way through. Reminded me of myself at that age, except he had actual support. His dad would sometimes drop by job sites with homemade lunches for both of us. Real good tamales that made the whole crew jealous. When Marcus mentioned needing a better laptop for his CAD class, I fronted him the money on the spot. No contracts, no terms, just told him to pay me back when he could. The look of shock on his face said everything about what he expected from people with money. A week passed. The first actual consequence hit when Laura's condo association started eviction proceedings. Not because of my loan, but because she'd missed 3 months of HOA fees while spending money on concerts and shopping sprees. She posted a rant blaming the economy and housing inequality. Not a word about her own choices or the $500 VIP tickets she'd bought instead of paying her bills. Around the same time, my credit monitoring service pinged me with an alert. Someone had tried to open a credit card using my social security number and address. The application was flagged as suspicious because the phone number and email didn't match my records. I immediately filed a fraud alert and contacted the credit bureau. Spent 2 hours on the phone with their fraud department, filing reports, setting up additional protections. I didn't jump to conclusions, but I had my suspicions. Logged into the credit monitoring dashboard and saw the inquiry came from a device in Laura's zip code. The application listed my employer as self-employed marketer, Laura's exact job title on LinkedIn. Meanwhile, my dad's situation at the accounting firm went from bad to worse. One of his former clients, a small business owner, posted on the neighborhood Facebook group asking if anyone else had experienced accounting irregularities with Richard's services. Several people commented saying they were reviewing their books. Within days, the post had 37 comments from angry clients. Dad's professional reputation was unraveling, thread by thread. None of this was my doing. I didn't spread rumors or make calls. I just stopped covering for them, stopped making excuses, stopped pretending their behavior was normal. The world was finally seeing what I'd seen for years. And it wasn't pretty. When the credit card fraud attempt escalated to a formal investigation, I got a panicked text from Laura. Need to talk ASAP. I didn't respond. Was up on a roof installing a commercial unit in 95-degree heat. 3 days later, she tried again. They're saying it's identity theft, but it was just a misunderstanding. I finally texted back, then explain it to the fraud department, not me. She immediately called 3 times in a row. I blocked her number and went back to rebuilding an air handler for a client who actually appreciated my work. Things escalated gradually over the next few months. I never had to push. Just let their own actions catch up with them. The credit card fraud investigation revealed 2 more attempts to use my identity, a loan application and a cell phone account. The paper trail led straight to Laura's IP address and home computer. An officer from the Financial Crimes Unit contacted me for a statement. I told them the truth. I hadn't authorized anyone to use my information. And yes, my sister had access to my documents years ago when she helped me with taxes. I could have dropped the charges. Could have told them it was a misunderstanding. But after thinking about it for 3 days, I decided to let the investigation proceed. Actions have consequences. I was done being the family scapegoat and safety net. Besides, Laura had tried to steal my identity, not just once in desperation, but multiple times, methodically, while posting about her spa days and shopping hauls. Meanwhile, my parents were dealing with their own problems. Dad's former client had filed a formal complaint with the state accounting board. 3 more followed. Turned out he'd been borrowing from client accounts for years, always replacing the money before audit time until he couldn't anymore. The board suspended his license pending investigation. His profile disappeared from the accounting firm's website overnight. Mom started calling me daily, leaving voicemails alternating between guilt trips and desperate pleas. We're family, and we'll pay you back when we can. And how could you do this to your own sister? I saved them all but didn't respond. Was too busy expanding my business, training Marcus, and actually making an honest living. 4 months after Christmas, I ran into Uncle Mike at the hardware store. He looked exhausted, pushing a cart loaded with plumbing supplies. We ended up talking in the parking lot after checking out. Your parents are staying with me, he said, loading pipes into his truck. Lost their house last week. Bank foreclosed. I nodded, not sure what to say. Laura's facing charges, he continued. Identity theft, fraud, something about false credit applications. She's saying you gave her permission to use your info. I didn't, I said simply. I know, he sighed. Your mom's a mess. Dad's not sleeping. They keep asking when you're going to help them out of this. They haven't even apologized, I pointed out. Not really. Just blame me for their problems. Mike looked at me for a long moment. They're at my place, if you want to talk to them. After thinking about it for 2 days, I drove to Mike's house. Hadn't planned to, but found myself turning onto his street after finishing a job nearby. His modest ranch-style home looked cramped, with 3 extra people living there. The lawn, usually perfect, was overgrown. Laura's BMW was gone, probably repossessed by now. Dad answered the door. He'd aged 10 years and 4 months. Unshaven, bags under his eyes, wearing a faded polo shirt with a stain on the collar. "Jacob," he said, surprise and wariness mixing in his voice. Mom appeared behind him, eyes lighting up with desperate hope. "Jacob, thank God you're here. We've been trying to reach you." The living room was cluttered with their belongings. Boxes stacked along the walls, suitcases in corners, Laura's designer clothes draped over furniture. She wasn't there, probably at a court appointment. The house smelled like too many people living in too small a space, a mix of conflicting perfumes, cooking odors, and unwashed laundry. I didn't sit when they offered, just stood there as they talked over each other. Explanations, excuses, complaints about how unfair everything was, how the bank had suddenly foreclosed after just a few missed payments, how Laura was being persecuted over a simple misunderstanding, how they couldn't find work because the economy is so terrible right now. "Did you try to open credit cards in my name?" I finally asked when there was a pause. My voice was calm, steady, the same voice I use when telling clients their entire system needs replacing. Dad looked away. Mom's face crumpled. "Laura was desperate," she whispered. "She made a mistake, but they're saying it's a felony, Jacob. A felony. She could go to jail." "You didn't answer my question," I said, crossed my arms and waited. Mom started crying. Dad stared at the floor. "I'll take that as a yes," I said. "Did you know about it?" More silence. "Right," I nodded. "And neither of you thought that maybe stealing my identity might hurt me? Might ruin my credit? Might be, I don't know." "Wrong. We were going to pay it all back," Dad muttered, "before you even noticed." And there it was. They weren't sorry for what they did. Just sorry they got caught. They still saw me as the invisible son, the safety net, who existed solely for their benefit. The guy who peaked in high school and didn't matter anymore. "The prosecutor called me yesterday," I said quietly. "Asked if I wanted to press charges or work something out." They both looked up, hope flickering across their faces. "I haven't decided yet," I continued. "But I do know one thing. I'm done being the family doormat. If you want my help, I need 3 things. A real apology, a legally binding repayment plan, and Laura needs to face some consequences." Dad started to argue, but Mom cut him off. "What kind of consequences?" "Community service at minimum, and she admits what she did. No more lies about misunderstandings or me giving permission." They looked at each other, silent communication passing between them. Dad's shoulders slumped. Mom twisted her wedding ring, the one she'd kept even as they sold most of their jewelry. "We don't have any money," Dad finally said. "The bank took everything. My license is suspended. Your mother's selling her jewelry on eBay." "Figure it out," I replied, echoing what he'd told me when I needed college money. "That's what adults do." I left them sitting there in Uncle Mike's cluttered living room, surrounded by the remnants of their former life. Got in my truck, sat there for a minute, then drove to a job site where Marcus was waiting. We spent the afternoon installing ductwork, me teaching him how to seal the joints properly, how to test for leaks, how to make sure everything was perfect before closing up the walls. 2 days later, I got a handwritten letter from Laura. A real apology, for maybe the first time ever. She admitted using my information, admitted the lies, admitted treating me like garbage for years. Said she was accepting a plea deal, probation, community service, mandatory financial counseling. Said she was sorry for everything, not just the identity theft, but for how she'd treated me our whole lives. The handwriting was shaky, the paper tear-stained. My parents called the next day. They'd worked out a payment plan, small amounts monthly once they got back on their feet. Dad was looking for work as a bookkeeper. Mom had applied at the school district. They asked if they could stay with me until they found an apartment they could afford. I thought about it for a long time before answering. Sat on my back porch watching the sunset, thinking about what Uncle Mike would do, what I would want someone to do if I ever screwed up this badly. "Number, you can't stay with me, but I'll help you find a place." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, more like a truce, a new relationship with boundaries and respect. It's been 6 months now. Laura's doing her community service at a homeless shelter. Says she's learning a lot about real problems. My parents are in a small apartment across town, scraping by on part-time jobs. They make their tiny loan payments on time, every month. $100 here, $150 there. At this rate, they'll pay me back around the time I retire. But that's not really the point anymore. They call sometimes, usually when they need something. Advice on a cheap car, help fixing their air conditioning, a ride when the bus is running late. I help when I can. Not because I've forgotten, but because I've remembered who I want to be. They're slowly learning that respect is a two-way street, that I have skills they need, that the disappointment actually turned out okay. My HVAC business has its ups and downs. Some months are good, some are tight. Hired Marcus full-time, taught him everything I know. Kid's a natural. Started seeing a veterinary assistant from the clinic near my place. Taking it slow, but it's going well. She respects what I do, doesn't measure success by Instagram followers or fancy job titles. Last week, Dad texted asking if I could help them move to a slightly better apartment. Said their current place has black mold and the landlord won't fix it. Please, he wrote. We have nowhere else to turn. I haven't answered yet, still thinking about it. Not because I'm trying to punish them, but because I'm trying to find the line between helping and enabling, between forgiveness and foolishness. They're family, but this time, it'll be on my terms. Edit 1. Thanks for all the awards and comments. For those asking if I'm going to help them move, yeah, probably will. But I'm bringing my dehumidifier and air purifier to check out this black mold situation first. Dad's been known to exaggerate when he needs something. Edit 2. To the people DMing me for legal advice about family loans. I'm an HVAC guy, not a lawyer, but document everything. That's what saved my ass.